So I'll count it off.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3.
Just let's go.
1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the rehearsal room. Nick here.
Aaron's here.
This episode is a bit of a landmark. Big 2-0.
There it is.
We have reached 20 episodes, Aaron and myself.
We can vote.
Yeah.
We can't legally drink and we can't rent a car, but we can vote.
We can go die on a land far, far away.
For somebody else's
For somebody else's, yeah. Actually, if my brother-in-law Tim were here, he'd be hitting the horns right now. Bow, 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 big 2-0. It's been a lot of fun having these conversations with Aaron that we almost always have anyway.
Yes.
We just decided to commit them to a recording. But we're going to do another one of our album deep dives. This one's kind of a favorite one of ours.
For sure.
The album in question is Lurker of Chalice by Lurker of Chalice. So, Aaron, you have some info?
As usual, I like to, kind of set it up. So Lurker of Chalice, as many people may or may not know, is the side project of one Jeff Whitehead, who also goes by Rest.
Rest, yep.
Leviathan being his more predominant black metal band that I think most people know him from. He's also in some other, Twilight is another one that he's done stuff. He's also played in a few here and there. Lurker of Chalice comes out 2005.
The album.
Yes, the album. Yes. It dates back to about 2001-ish is the first demo, but I mean, he was starting as early as 98 where he is starting to kind of mess with this. As he said, these were the things that he felt were kind of stuff that was the post-punk, a lot of the goth stuff that he liked, that he felt kind of some didn't fit in to the Lurker or into Leviathan. So it was a way to get those kind of influences out.
Yeah, because Leviathan as a band, as an entity starts in like late 90s, 97, 98 also.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting that this kind of, again, his background, as you find out, he's eclectic. Into a lot of interesting stuff. Also is giant Van Halen fan. And, very much loves Van Halen. And,
That's wild.
Yeah. He's just, again, in this album, I think is something that we will definitely be talking about. I mean, you hear this man has a giant Rolodex of influences that go through his music in general. This one even more so, and I think this was something where he could let that shine. Originally released on Southern Lord, CD and LP, was once again reissued on Nuclear War Now. I think maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. Yeah. As I like to do, a little context, some other albums that were released around the same time. He had Witchcraft's second album, Firewood. Very good one. I very much like that one. One of my absolute favorite from Ulver, Blood Inside.
Good one.
One that Mr. Jeff Whitehead actually was on, Sun's Black One.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Fantastic album. I know you and I both.
Yes.
Huge Sun fans
Big
in that
Sun
one especially.
Fans,
Niall's Annihilation of the Wicked. Kylessa's Walk a Middle Course, a fantastic
great album
record.
Kylessa,
great band.
also welcome back,
Yes,
Kylessa.
yes. Yeah. And interestingly enough, Leviathan at that time also released A Silhouette of Splinters, his ambient album, which for those who, if you have not tried, I highly recommend. Fantastic record.
Yeah.
Just some interesting other albums that are floating around at this same time, that's pretty much all I have. And, another thing is Jeff Whitehead, a damn good tattoo artist, has been in it for a long time, fairly well known in that world.
Was also very heavily into like the skater scene.
Absolutely, early on as a kid, for sure. Yeah, kind of. What did he say? Kind of a sponsored amateur is what he kind of called himself.
Yeah, which is that's cool because
yeah.
I'm kind of I'm wondering if maybe he and other people from like other bands like Neurosis maybe crossed paths at one point.
Certainly that Bay Area and everything else. I would imagine it's certainly possible. I mean, again, how he was at that age. Maybe he was too much, on the skating side, because we know now. Yes, he has said he's not exactly a guy who likes to hang out with a bunch of people at a show.
That's
so
also
you know,
true, right?
but yeah, I would imagine you know, even if they didn't know it, they may have crossed paths. You know,
yeah.
His other claim to fame was it Skate or Die 2. I think he's on the cover of for
Yes.
the Nintendo, which is
A game that my family and I
Oh
had.
yeah, I mean, dude, that was a badass game back in the day. And even doing some artwork even early on for some of the skater guys and some of the logos and stuff like that. Another thing that he's very much known for is his artwork in general.
Yes.
Nails, Converge. What's the one? Lord Mantis. You know, a lot of bands like that he has done cover artwork for. You know, including his own, obviously. So you know, all in all, a super talented guy in a lot of areas of art, and really took on music in a way that, you know, for America, I mean, was one of those. He's probably, you know, right up there with Zaster, is that one-man black metal kind of thing that people talk about, bedroom black metal, if you will.
Yeah.
But a guy that really like started very DIY kind of stuff where he's just dropping off tapes at Amoeba Berkeley, you know, that he's making it home into, I would say, one of the premier black metal artists, certainly in America. He's one of my all-time favorites. I think he's super talented. And Lurker is one of those albums, the first time I heard it, that's it. I was hooked.
Yeah. So
please.
Getting to that, when was the first time you heard it?
You know, I knew you were going to ask, and I racked my brain trying to remember. And the reality is I could not pinpoint a date in any way, shape, or form. It feels like one of those records that the moment I heard it, it felt like it was just in my life forever. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's just the one that's weird that I equate it to, and there's a similarity to the way they open too. It's kind of like Agaloc's The Mantle.
Okay. Yeah.
The first time I heard that, it just felt like, well, I've always known this album.
Right.
It's just always been in my life. And I had the same experience where it was just like, I'm hearing so many things that I love, but also realizing I've never heard anything like this. And even more so with Lurker, because I feel like it's such a singular listen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to say that you can't pull, what do I want to say? What's the word?
Influence?
Thank you. Influences from it. You hear it. It's there. But I'd never heard it put together in that way. And I've never heard anybody else even come close to it.
Yeah.
You know, in that way. There are certainly albums that are as good but do it in a much different way. It's just, you know, considering sometimes black metal especially can be repetitive in ways that you just go like, I've heard 50 bands that do that.
Right.
This is one that day in and day out just stands out every time I hear it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I could not, unfortunately. I knew you would ask, and I really did. I really tried to rack my brain, and I don't know. Maybe it's and maybe sometimes that's for me anyway, is the sign of that great album where it's like I can't even remember exactly at that moment. It just feels like the moment I heard it, it's been in my life. So I don't remember the day, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine it was around the same time I was getting into Leviathan, because that would have been, you know, I was a latecomer to black metal, so it probably would have been, you know, 2013-ish, 14-ish, somewhere around in there, you know.
Gotcha.
I was very latecomer to that, especially his style.
Right,
It's dense. You have to really listen.
It is dense,
you know. Yeah. So, you know, that was harder to get into than a lot of the Agalocs or kind of, you know, Cascadian black metal stuff.
Right.
But when you find out, oh, he's got other side projects, like, okay, well, let me explore these, and then just Lurker hit the moment I heard it. How about yourself?
Well, very interesting. When Amy and I lived up in Oakland,
Okay.
I teamed up with a gentleman by the name of Andrew Labar.
Okay.
So he is unfortunately no longer with us. Rest in peace, Andrew.
Right on. Yeah.
He was a very talented guitarist. Used to be in this band Impaled up there.
Oh, okay.
I believe he was also in Ghoul, but Impaled is probably the one he's most known for.
Okay.
I didn't have a band at that time.
Okay.
And Amy saw that I was going nuts, and she came home one day and said, "You go open up Craigslist and look for a band."
Right on.
And so I did. And Andrew had this ad up looking for a drummer.
Okay.
So I tried out for this band, and eventually it became a band that I was the bassist for at one point, called Addiction King.
Okay.
All that to say, Andrew was very knowledgeable on metal, just music in general.
Sure.
But like, I learned so much from him just being in a band, being a musician and stuff like that. But when he'd go off on like stuff he liked, it was almost like very beautiful to listen to because he was one of those people who taught me how to like listen to music differently as well, right?
Wonderful to have such a
So
guide.
he lived in like kind of like in a big warehouse with roommates and stuff, but like the whole thing was very eclectic, like just being in there, you know, like people of all types, punks, metalheads, hippie types,
Very
and all this
cool,
stuff, right?
man.
So we're in there one time, you know, and we had just finished rehearsing, and he said, "Hey, have you heard this band Lurker of Chalice?" 2007-ish is when this happened. And I was like, "I don't know who that is."
Right.
He's like, "Oh, he's like, well, he's from here, from like the Bay Area."
Right.
He let me his CD. I took it home, listened to it. I came back the next week, and I was like, dude, you need to burn me this ASAP.
Yeah, no.
Because there's so much happening here, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
it's because he said black metal also. He's like, it's black metal, but you
yeah,
know,
no. That
and
but is important.
Yeah, and I said, well, yeah, because it's got doom.
Yes.
It's got the ambient
Yes.
stuff. It's got like synths in there,
Yes.
you know.
There's goth. There's like
It's-
neo-folkish
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then maybe like the one really cohesive that could be arguably the one black metal song on there. Granted,
Yeah.
it's the one song.
There are moments, but yes, that's the one song that you go, okay, that's black metal.
Yeah,
To a
yeah.
degree.
To,
But
to,
even then,
to whatever it means,
Right.
on this album here,
right. But even
Right.
then, the vocals come in, you go, well, okay, that's not black metal.
Well, that's another
You
thing.
know,
It's
that's
like
the beauty of it. You know,
as we were saying, all the influences
Yeah.
Jeff Whitehead has
Yeah.
on the, especially on this album.
Oh.
He's really he's able to put in as much as he wants
Yes.
because it's just layered
Yes.
and layered under what somebody hears initially for
Yes.
the first time. So when you hear
Oh.
it, you hear the clean guitars, the heavy fucking bass on
fuck
there,
yes.
right? And then like the distorted guitar comes in, but it's all kind of subdued.
Yeah, dude.
Right?
Yes.
And the drums are very present because Jeff Whitehead is primarily a drummer.
Yes.
Right? So
A
there's
lot of what he writes even starts with drumming
with drums.
first. And then he puts,
Yeah, you can kind of tell that on certain parts, little sections, he's doing little kind of proggy beats, little math type of beats.
that little ride that he hits in a couple with ting,
Yep,
ting,
yep,
ting,
yep.
ting, ting, ting. You're just like, oh my
Yep.
God, you just hit the G spot, man.
Yeah.
I just like, yes, dude.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
so I remember taking all that in, and every time I listened to it, including this past week, I would lower the volume and I would be like, oh, I can hear a guitar track
There you go.
that when you raise it actually gets buried
Yeah.
under the other instruments.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, all right, Mr. Whitehead.
Yes.
You have one-upped yourself yet again by doing absolutely nothing.
And again, all of this on a 4-track.
On a 4-track
In a fucking apartment.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think also goes into the making of this album.
Yeah.
So at the time, he this was kind of highlighted in the third section of that one noisy one-man black metal documentary.
Which I would recommend to anybody. It's very interesting,
Yeah.
to say the least. And whether you're a fan of these guys in general or if there's just one, it's really interesting. For these guys to open up the way they did was pretty cool. And I would also recommend the guy who hosts it. His name is J.R. Robinson. He is in a fantastic band Nick and I are both big fans of called Wreckmeister Harmonies. Check out his shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were
yeah.
saying.
So on the
Sorry,
no, that was
just-
great. That was great. So on that documentary, the three musicians highlighted are Streborg from Australia,
Tasmania.
Or Tasmania,
Yeah.
yeah,
Down under.
down under.
They got
down
koalas
under.
and kangaroos. That's all.
Yeah,
I know.
right. So him and his whole process. Zaster, who at the time lived here in Alhambra, actually,
Yeah.
right down the street from
I know.
where I lived.
It's crazy.
So that was kind of cool to see how he works. But the third one is Jeff Whitehead.
Yeah.
So at one point in the third episode of that documentary, he talks about an apartment where most of the music for this release was written.
Yeah. And Leviathan. I mean,
and Leviathan, yeah, that's right.
The greater, at that point, the greater output
Right.
of his musical in general had been recorded
Yeah.
in that apartment. But yes, go.
Yeah, because this is a culmination of work done from like 2001 to when it was released in 2005.
yes.
And he had a couple of demos and
It does start as a demo.
A demo,
It's like
yeah.
no song titles. And then he
Right.
puts out another one, I think has 3 songs on it, which if you go and listen to them, they are skeletons of what you're going to get in Lurker of Chalice
Lurker of
and
Chalice,
stuff, even some stuff he ended up using in Leviathan.
Right. Yeah.
Worth looking into, by the way. They really are very interesting to hear because to see the progress of those songs as they become what you know as Lurker of Chalice is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because you kind of start recognizing the headspace he's in when those come out.
Amen.
Yeah, so so he comes in and releases it in 2005. But in the apartment, he was going through a lot of bouts of depression.
Yeah.
Some attempts at self-harm.
Yes.
But his partner at the time, she did unfortunately end up dying because of the self-harm. She did commit suicide in the apartment. And when you consider this and everything he's talked about the making of this album, and why something like this album won't ever happen again.
Yes.
Right? There's just an added layer, right, to the already bountiful music. But now when you hear it all together and you start considering these, because I think they do count. They matter more in this, something like this,
For
than
sure.
maybe like, something like Norwegian black metal. Or whatever,
Absolutely.
right?
This isn't about anger. There's a depression. There's a sadness.
It's depression, yes.
Though you do hear, because remember, he even says it in the documentary, Lurker of Chalice had a muse.
Right.
He is referring to this girlfriend of his.
Yes.
So early on, she was a muse for this music, which I always assume with muse you think of happiness. Like she inspires.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, she becomes terminally ill with cancer.
Right.
When she realizes this, she takes her own life.
Yeah.
And obviously, he goes, as Nick said, he goes down a very dark hole. So all of that is influencing what you're listening to. And you're absolutely right. Normally, separating that can be fine in some ways, in other ways not so much, because you get a deeper meaning. With this album, I think it's almost vital to understand what this was being written under. Yeah. It's not necessarily that the songs and the lyrics, because they're hard to understand for the most part, necessarily reflect all of the stuff that inspired this, but to understand, as you said, a great way of putting it, the headspace under which he is doing all of this, going from a muse to a depression to a sadness while this is all being done is really adds to, and it's not to celebrate a death or to,
no, not at all. No.
It's
to kind of culminate the effect this person had on his life.
Absolutely, yes.
The space that is no longer occupied by her presence.
Right.
Like all this. You can feel it in the music once you're aware of all this.
Every ounce of it. Every ounce.
You're right. When this ex-girlfriend of his was his muse, you do kind of hear some of that even in the first couple of tracks.
There's some brightness, right?
There's a little bit of brightness.
A little bit of sunshine in what is another. The bleak is momentary, but as you go along, and maybe that's how he puts it together, it becomes less and less.
Less and less, yeah, because it's actually almost like every song takes you down another layer of hell, right?
Oh, great,
and
yes.
Like the first two, like you said, there is some sunshine, but it's kind of like the what the sky looks like after it's rained.
Sure.
But it's still gonna rain,
there you go.
So you feel a little bit of the sun, some of the rays poke out of the clouds.
Sure.
But then the clouds keep coming.
Yeah.
Right. And then I actually do think the songs maybe to my ears anyway, they're a little bit more erratic because they're more like these are the memories that I'm trying to kind of honor, but I also don't want them tormenting me the way they do.
Almost an exorcism.
Yeah, because
by letting it out in this way, which he does kind of say with the music. That's why he records singular. He records by himself.
Yeah,
it is an expelling of these things.
Yeah,
he's not a wild, crazy dude. You know what I mean? He's pretty subdued for a guy who makes this kind of music.
So. Yeah.
But this is an exorcism for him. This is catharsis. You see that, and as you said, the catharsis of making this and all that comes with it every time it has to come back up. Like in that interview, remember, he talks about the apartment. Yeah, I tried to take my own life. It was unsuccessful. It kind of cuts away, and the narrator has to say the rest of it. Yeah. That Jeff talks to me off camera to tell me the rest of it, and he gives you an overview. Obviously, this is still hurting him. This is still another reason why Lurker is it's done. It's
Done.
not going to happen again.
Right, yeah.
You know, it may not be a place he necessarily wants to visit.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. Which honestly, one and done is more than we deserve. Even.
Oh God.
You know, especially a person going through all of that.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
The fact that what's left is, I think it's a very beautiful album.
Oh.
You know, especially when I don't think, even though I've tried, you can really listen to one or two songs off of it.
Dude,
you know, it's a sit through the entire thing.
It's a thing. It's an event.
Yeah,
You, like, whether you drop that needle, whether you push play on your CD, whatever it is, once it starts, and I love, you know, that first track doesn't have a name, just a little pitchfork.
Yeah.
You know, and it starts with those kind of martial drums.
Yes,
The timpani
yes.
kind of dun, 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 dun.
Right.
And you're just like, it's like a call, like, hey, wake up.
Yeah.
We're about to begin. Get in
Well,
line.
I also feel like that's where whatever, as far as the context of this album, whatever life is still there is being celebrated.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Right.
hey,
Oh.
we're still good here. Like, we're still
Dude,
alive.
I
We're
love
still
that.
marching.
I love
right?
that, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've it's such a great, and that's where it, for me, it ties into the mantle. The mantle starts with that dum dum, with that timpani kind of thing, and
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
like it's an alert to we have begun.
Right.
And with
Yep.
both of those, pretty much to this day, every time they do, I get a little shiver up my spine
Yeah.
because I know where I'm going.
Yeah, of course.
And I cannot wait for and they're both that kind of thing where it's like, no. There's no one song.
Yep.
This is, you know, I mean, in general, I'm an album guy. I rarely listen to anything that's one song. But yeah, I'm with you. If Lurker of Chalice as an album is an experience.
Yeah.
You drop that needle, you push play, that's it. Everything else goes away. I was listening to it, you know, one more time before I came over, and the wife was getting ready to go to work, and I put my headphones on. I said, okay, well, I'm disappearing now. And I put the headphones on, and that was
Excuse me
it.
while I kiss the sky.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? Well, I kiss the darkness, you know? So it's just, you know, I cannot say enough about this album in so many ways, because to say you feel it, I don't know how you can't.
Right.
You know, when you're listening to it. And again, it's like, it's not lyrically, because I don't know what he's saying a lot of the times.
Yeah. I've actually
just-
never bothered to try to find the
Good luck,
lyrics.
because I don't think many people have either. And I think, and I love that mystery.
Yeah.
Yet there's enough of whether they are movie clips, whether they are
the sound bites.
the little sound bites.
Yeah.
They add first of all, I'm a fucking sucker for that. You add a sound bite to your
Same,
album,
same.
we're pretty much 50% ready to go.
Yep.
You know, I'll probably
Same.
like everything else. You know, the idea that he uses those in such a way that just the timing of them, the flow of it is just,
It accents the moment that they come out in, right?
man.
Like,
Till man is no more.
Till-
And then
yeah,
boom,
right.
it goes right into. You're just like, this is amazing. The female with sometimes I feel hollow, and you're just like, oh my God, where are we going now?
she's like breaking down.
Yes, and it's just-
and actually, I feel like the music kind of also breaks down
For sure,
you know,
for
like,
sure.
Yeah, it's so good. And like I said, it's when it's got like the doomy parts. I was like, oh, I already recognize this.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm
right?
like,
and like real doomy
it
shit.
is
like
funeral-y.
Yes,
like
right. And-
Super fucking
and like
dense.
even
yeah.
a couple songs, the one, Spectre, like the opening riff,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. They're like, fuck, dude, save that one, bro, because he barely uses it for the song, and then it cuts into the next part, and you're
Yep.
just like,
Yeah.
bro, there's a whole band that would have made a whole career off of that riff,
Yeah,
you know,
and we're trying.
yeah. and I think, you know, again, learning the history of this too is interesting, because when you understand that you know, much of what becomes the Lurker of Chalice as we know it is bits and pieces
Yes,
that he has
yeah.
put together. When you think about that, and yet, while there are songs that seem to change literally, like right in the middle of the song, the song just completely goes a different direction, but never feels jarring.
No,
It
not at all.
always flows. You feel like you're just on all of this. To put all that together in that way and to make it feel that way, like that's a talent unto itself.
Yeah, it does sound, like you said, jarring is a good word. The kind of segments of songs that pop up out of nowhere, disappear, and this happens in most of the songs.
Yes, right.
Which is why I think it's like maybe he's, you know, just trying to go through the week, gets a bad memory, recalls something horrible that puts him in a depression
I hear you.
and that headspace.
Yeah.
And he writes the music and he's like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna attach this to that other piece because this is where I'm at now, mentally, emotionally, and musically. And that's kind of how I kind of imagined he was doing things.
Oh, yeah.
But it is weird that like all these types of things that are normally associated with darker music, they're all here. They're all here, and it fits so well. Like the ambient parts when they
Yes.
kick in, they're beautifully ambient. Right?
And yet they're, like you said, so layered in so many ways. Again, you're getting goth, you're getting post-punk, you're getting kind of neo-folkish like Soul Invictus or Death in June stuff. You know what I mean? Which you can pick those out.
Yeah.
And yet, again, you hear it, it's an influence, but it doesn't sound like them.
Right.
It's not a ripoff in any
Right.
way, shape, or form. And it's just like I said, and then like getting some vocals from him that you don't necessarily get on other Leviathan albums.
Right. Yeah.
Excuse me. The one in particular, like almost like a Nick Cave song when it comes in, the Granite one. While the music is very black metal, when he comes in, he's doing a
It's like really mournful.
yeah, like
almost,
a chant, almost a sing,
Yeah.
but there's also like this, a little bit of that Nick Cave, Elvis-y kind of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I'm singing to you, baby, you know what I mean? And it's just like really cool because you expect once those guitars kick in, you're gonna hear that, and it's like, nope, I'm going a whole other direction with that vocal,
Yeah.
and it's more haunting in that way,
Right.
It feels like
That's-
it's like sung from a tower, or from below,
like from
a
a crypt. Like there's
Yes.
a ghoul like walking the crypt and just mourning, just moaning and mourning, right? Like, yeah, it's actually, granted, it happens to be my absolute favorite song.
Oh,
on
okay.
this one. Which leads me to the next question.
Please.
What's your favorite song of this?
It's very hard to pick, though. If you look at my Instagram and you look at my Twitter, you'll find it's probably not that hard, considering both are Blood is Mortal. So Blood Falls is Mortal, Part 3, which I love that mystery. Like, where's Part 2? Where's Part 1?
where's part one?
Yeah, that's probably the one that it's one of the longer tracks, and there's just so much going on in it that I love. It's another one of those ones that shifts kind of in the middle where you think you're going left and all of a sudden he goes right, and I love that. It just that's again, I hate to pick one because the moment I say one, I can think of 5 others. Like, oh, but I really like Minions, and then Parmesia, But yeah, I would say the Blood Falls is Mortal. That has that woman talking at the beginning, and that just sets such a tone. And the one thing I really noticed again, and it's something you said, and you're so right. The real sign of a great album, in my opinion, too, is when you can listen to it. And according to Last FM, I've listened to it 764 tracks. So each track is one little, as they call them, scrobbles. So 760 times for one album, pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah.
There was a time where honestly I was listening to this album probably once a month, and every time I listen to it, I pick up something new. And in that one, the thing that hit me was the guitars are doing one thing, but that drumming back there, he's going for it. There's a lot of double bass going on. It's much more frantic than necessarily what's happening up front.
Yeah.
You can hear it, but it's not up front either. You have to listen for those drums.
Yeah.
And you can pick out these little crazy little things he's doing. And like I said, I just love it. So yeah, if I had to pick one, it's probably that, because that is, and it's not Blood Ass Mortal as some of my friends like to make fun of me. It's Blood As. Ass has 2 S's. That one only has 1. So Blood as Mortal. Yeah. If I again, I can't go against my Instagram and my Twitter, so I guess I have to go with that one.
Maybe
But
I should change my handle to Granite.
to be honest, once again, shows you how much I listen to it and how much I love it. When I got on Instagram, it was like, you got to come up with some cool name, right? And I literally was listening to that album, and I went, oh, Blood is Mortal. That's pretty cool. Now, the first time I did it, I did put Blood is Mortal 3, which I thought, well, that's fucking stupid. Why did I do that? 3, The guy's got 3 Instagrams?
You're like, oh, it's a good callback to whoever gets this.
So I got rid of the 3, and I've kept it ever since. You know, I'm not the most creative guy, so it's just I look over and go, "That's a fucking cool name. I'm using that." You know, so yeah. I mean, again, this album is easily in my top 5 all time.
Yeah. Same.
I have it on CD. I bought the Southern Lord. It's a reissue, but nonetheless, Southern Lord issue of it, and I have when they reissue, or I guess actually put out for the first time through Nuclear War. They put his demos together, and he made a second album essentially of the demos and everything else. I have that. If it came out on, I don't know, reel to reel, I'd probably buy it on that too. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones.
8-track.
Yeah. Hey. No problem.
Heaviest 8-track ever.
And that's interesting too, is like if you buy the Southern Lord CD, you get the album. If you buy the record, it comes with an extra song called Whale. Mm-hmm. If you buy the Nuclear War reissue, I don't know if it comes with Whale. But
I don't think it does.
Okay, but if you download it,
it does.
It does. Comes with, but here's the even cooler part. They're not the same Whale.
Oh.
They're very similar, but they're not the same. So how it was edited or how it was pieced together is very different, the Southern Lord record, than it is. For a long time, I had it actually listed as a totally different song. And then looked up the song because I realized when you go like Discogs, that song existed on one of the demos. So I went and looked for it, and it's not the song that I thought it was. So I was like, well, what is this? And if you go on Discogs, there's a lot of little discussion about, what's how come that thing isn't titled? Because there's the extra song, they actually numbered it incorrectly. And it's which just, again, adds to this kind of mystery and coolness of it all in a lot of ways.
Good luck trying to figure it out.
Because again, if you listen to, like, I put them back to back. So when I listen to it, I have the Whale from my Southern Lord record, but I also have the downloaded Whale. And I realized how different they were, but it only adds. It doesn't take away from my listening experience of that. You know what I mean? So I would recommend to anyone, even if you have the record, go listen to it on Bandcamp and listen to their version of Whale that he added as a download to essentially to get people to buy the download, because that was going to fund what became the second
reissue,
the Lurker, the second Lurker album through Nuclear War.
Oh yeah, I did read something that apparently there are 4 unreleased Lurker of Chalice albums.
And this is the thing, like, I'm not sure if when I read, because I read the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are referencing what then became. I'm gonna screw this name up because it is some words. I'm like, I had to look up these words. I was like, I've never fucking heard, except for the last one. Tellurane Slacked Furnace.
Okay.
Now that came out in 2020. As I understood it, when Nuclear War reissued this album, he put it on Bandcamp and it said, "This is coming with an extra track. The money that we generate from you downloading this will go to getting all the other demos put on media, some kind of record ultimately." Yeah. So I'm not sure if what you're referring to, and I read that too, is what became the 2020 album, or is there still yet 4 more things that haven't been released?
I took it to mean there's 4 more things.
I hope so, but it's interesting. I think it's in the Decibel article he did. He understands the gravity of this album too.
Yeah.
They ask him about it, which he produces. It's dead, but he also is like, I have stuff, and this is obviously before the 2020 album.
Yeah.
But I know how much people like that, and I'm kind of afraid to let them down. Like, I don't want. I think he understands the bar is so raised.
Sure.
That if I were to release anything lower than, and I think as an artist he feels that way just in general. I don't think it's about like, oh man, my popularity will go down, or people won't like Lurker.
Right.
It's just, I feel like I set a bar and I don't want to lose that. You know
I
what
respect
I mean?
that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because, honestly, it happens a lot of times. I'm pretty sure at one point we'll dive into, like, what bands released albums that just kept getting better and better, But because that's not the case here, we only have the one album.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking good.
It is.
Another thing I noticed, and maybe this is just me.
Please.
If we go back to Asunder, there's a certain production where it sounds a little kind of compressed.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
I get that on this one as well.
Okay.
Like even the clean instruments don't sound overtly bright.
Yeah.
Right? Like the clean guitar.
Yes, I know what you
It
mean. yeah.
sounds I don't want to say muffled, but maybe a little. I'm going to use this word, but I
Please.
don't mean
No,
the
no, no.
negative
No, no,
version
no.
of this. A little muddy.
Well, it's interesting you say that. So in the Guitar World article that I read,
Yeah.
he talks about the fact that, again, everything up until Massive Conspiracy Against All Life, he has done on a 4-track.
Right.
With digital drums. This one he records with Billy Anderson.
Yes.
Which he says, I was super intimidated. I mean, this guy has made some of my favorite records. And he said, I remember explaining my production style or what I wanted it to sound like to Billy. And Billy kind of shook his head like, oh, okay. He goes, I later find out Billy's like, well, that sounds like fucking shit. And I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? And yet, you can't listen to Massive Conspiracy and go like, wow, look at this polished album. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's there. Everything that Leviathan that you love is there. But there is the upping of the ante a little bit.
Sure.
Again, Lurker is still on his 4-track with digital drums. And I think
Yeah,
it adds to that. This isn't Burzum going, give me a head mic so I can play my guitar through it kind of, how can I make this sound as cult as possible kind of thing. It's called, this is what I have. This is what I record on. And more importantly, look at, even with my limitations, look what I'm able to accomplish.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
and
yeah.
also, there's nobody here to tell me what I can or cannot do.
I also, for some reason, that type of production just reminds me of the Bay Area.
I hear you.
At that time.
Okay.
Like San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, and all
sure.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, because Asunder, for me, has that same feel.
I
like
hear you. No.
maybe Asunder and Lurker of Chalice would exist on the same imaginary world.
I mean, to some degree, we're talking. It's not far off. I mean, they're in that area. In fact, one of his favorite guitarists that I did see was John Gossard. He said, Weakling, he says, is one of his all-time, and Dispirit, he's like, that guy is an amazing guitar player who plays guitar in ways that I can't even begin to fathom.
Yeah, I don't just mean because in the actual world they're so close.
I gotcha.
I mean just the kind of like the
Overall tone they're
the
kind of going
tone,
for?
the feeling that
Yeah,
they give off,
sure.
puts me in the same place.
Okay,
like
yeah,
both
yeah.
the Asunder album,
I can see that, for
and,
sure.
and this one.
There's
because
more
I
hope,
think
though, in the Asunder, I feel.
yes,
as we talked on
Asunder is the start of this album, right? And then he picks it up and just drops you into
So,
where,
oh, no, we're not
where
going that way.
Bane from the Dark Knight.
You're not following the light.
Yeah, exactly. There is no more light here.
Right.
Yeah,
But also, I will say, to your point, I also don't feel like it's necessarily an evil album, though. Like with
It's not.
Leviathan
It's
is
definitely
like,
not.
Leviathan feels like he is exercising anger
Leviathan
and
is anger.
demons.
Yeah.
This is much more about, I don't use these words lightly, but nonetheless, depression, sadness.
Sure.
There's the gothy tones to it, the folky, neo-folky tones, the kind of martial drumming kind of thing. I think adds to that. Don't get me wrong, but I think the overall tone is just like it's not as much. If there's anger, it's more anger mixed with sorrow than it is
Right.
like, it's not fuck you. It's like, how could this have happened to me? Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And that tone goes throughout, the entire album. And
That's the thing. Yeah,
I'm a sucker for that.
Same. Yeah, I think I feel a special connection to albums that are born from those types of emotions.
Oh, yeah. No.
I will tell people that I'm bummed out, and I'll tell them about what. Right.
I feel you. No.
So when I found out all that stuff, I was already on like my 200th re-listen, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this dude's going through some really deep stuff, and I can really tell, especially, as the album progresses.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, you're right that this would be in my top 5 just maybe because of that alone, like how much he put into the music.
Sure.
And I have very little other albums that I would try to even say like that's just as emotional as this.
Yeah, and again, I would say there are probably other albums in my top 5 that certainly just stir up other emotions.
Sure.
There's just nothing that stirs up the emotions that this does. That I can think of. That certainly nothing I own that, you know, I'm sure maybe there's somebody out there right now, you know, going like, dude, I have that album, I promise you, you know, and maybe it exists.
Yeah.
I have just, as I say, I think sometimes that can get thrown around a lot, but this is so literally singular, but also figuratively singular in its, like, there's just nothing else quite like it.
Yeah.
And finding an artifact that you just go like I do think this, if you're open enough to music and you're open enough to these sounds, even if you're not a black metal fan, even if harsh music in general isn't your thing, I think you would find pieces of this that you would absolutely love.
I think
and
so,
find
yeah.
to be, despite its sadness, very beautiful in that. Like,
Yeah,
again, you and I, you know, share this. I mean, like, I'm drawn to that. Depression, melancholy is one of my favorite words. I mean, an album that has all of that already is drawing me in. You know what I mean? I know it's not a thing that a lot of these guys like, and I get it, and I know it was very short-lived, but like depressive, suicidal black metal, as they like to call it, like that was right up my alley, man. Like I love the pain, the torture of it all. You know what I mean? It feels, you know, it's also one of those things when I am done listening to this album, I don't repeat. I've got to put it away for a bit.
Yeah.
You know, I share that with a lot of Neurosis in that way. Mm-hmm. You know, Times of Grace, I would put in my top 5, but it is not one that I go, ooh, spin that baby again.
Right.
By the time it's done, I'm spent. I feel that
it is very exhausting to listen.
But cathartic.
It's satisfying.
It is, right?
Yeah.
You just like I said, there was a time, I would say for probably a good 7 or 8 months, every month I would make a point to go, Lurker, I need to listen to it again. Because again, you're just mining so many depths of what's going on in there. And then it inspires me to look other places. Like, I was a big fan of Soul Invictus already, but certain things like Death in June and stuff like that. And what's the other one? I can't think of their name now. That was real big into. But anyway, you know, looking into those bands because I want to understand, you know, I get what he's taking, but like, where is that coming from? You know what I mean? The post-punk stuff that he loves, that he brings to it. You know, there's some Bauhaus feel to it. There's all of that. And it's all there, and yet you're right. Like something you said before, it's like for you and I, if you knowing who we are, you would go, it's like black metal, because that would be the first touchstone you would feel when you do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But when you listen to it, the beauty is as soon as you get 2 songs in, you realize, oh, but there's so much more.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and the ability to do that, and that's another thing is like. The ability to put that many influences, to do that much of a changing of songs and do all that, and not make it feel like there's 20 pounds of shit in a 10-pound bag, where you're just like, it's so much, I don't know what's going on. And not to feel, a word you used earlier, overly proggy or show off, like, hey, look who's doing this. No, it still captures this rawness of a guy who's a fairly talented musician. I know he would be the first to tell you he's horrible at everything, but it's like he's a talented guy. He can do quite a bit. But, you know, he would also tell you, I'm not the world's greatest guitar player or drummer or any of that stuff.
And that's weird because, like,
please.
You can hear that he's not.
Right.
But especially if you go into this thinking, oh, this is going to be black metal.
Right. Okay. Please.
And you expect, you know, maybe something like the other bands tend to do it with the tremolo guitars and whatnot.
Yes.
But then you listen to this and you're like, oh, this is not the same.
No.
It's, I don't want to say diminutive either because it's not lesser than.
No.
But it's just different.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like the approach might be the same, or maybe you're using the same utensils, but the approach is entirely different.
Yes.
You're using the same tools
Right.
for a way different outcome as well. Right?
Absolutely. And he's trying for it. It's very clear he does not want this to be Leviathan.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This is not Leviathan.
There's a divide there.
There's a divide, despite having obvious similarities.
Yeah.
Considering he's the person who does both.
He's the guy.
You know? But, you know, it's just like, it's very clear he was trying, and that's, you know, that in itself is a talent. To be an artist who has a sound, right? Leviathan has a sound.
Yes.
You know, the moment you hear it, you know that's Leviathan.
Yeah.
And then to kind of, not fully, but to some degree, abandon that to try something completely new, and yet you're obviously there, but it sounds very different, like, that's really hard to do in a lot of ways. To kind of just go, I don't want to be me on this record, like, or at least what I've established myself as.
Yeah.
Like, wow, dude, to be able to do that
When
and pull it off.
Yeah, when people can like compartmentalize the things that they create like that, it's pretty interesting. You know, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say?
I'm sorry.
No. This is
I could
plane
gush over
left
this
the-
album for hours and hours.
Oh
It just-
yeah. Sorry.
Please, no.
Usually when I recommend this album, I tell people maybe have it on in the background first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I don't want to tell them like focus on this and focus on that
Sure,
because
sure.
I want them to just kind of be ambient
Yes.
in their
Okay.
everyday.
Okay.
Because I know something's gonna catch their attention, and then that's when the hook is set. Right?
That's interesting that you say that, and I hear you 100. I get it. This to me is, I think I've played it in my car once. Even when I drop the needle on the record player, I've always got headphones. I can't. This isn't an outside record. This isn't a turn it on forever. This is to me is like I want to be encased in it. I want to be soaking in it. You know what I mean? Like, so to me, it's like put on the headphones and just. But I get what you're saying. Absolutely.
I just mean this for when I recommend it.
No.
People,
I totally.
you know?
No. I do. I totally get that. That's an interesting way to kind of. You're right. Pick up on these little things and then immerse yourself later. I get that. Absolutely. It's just interesting because, like, for me, the experience of this is to put on headphones and block out all other things and just be. Like I said, I'm just soaked in it. That's all I'm doing. It's all I want to be doing because there's so much to pay attention to. And yet you're right, though. You could just kind of surface level it and still catch plenty of amazing shit going on.
I think because if you're listening to it just, not so much in the background, but if it's just on, right, and you're doing stuff.
Sure.
Something will come up and you'll pick up your head and you'll say, oh, I hope there's more of that in there. And now you're paying attention to hear more of that.
I feel you.
But you're going to get more of everything else.
No.
And
I like
it's
that.
for me, it's a because it's happened a couple of times when I recommended it that way.
Okay.
And that played out to that effect. So but then sometimes these folks go back and do the headphone thing, which I also like doing. I also just like putting it on one of my little Bluetooth speakers right in front of me, close my eyes and just go away for an hour because that is the runtime, 59 minutes and 50-something seconds, right? So
unless you have the extra track like I do because I'm, a real elitist kind of person. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I guess I just have all the demos. I guess I'm just cooler than you. I don't know.
Not so humble brag over here.
Oh, do I have the Southern Lord record that has the extra track? Oh, I'm sorry. No, but yes, I love an album like that you can get lost in, that you can immerse yourself in. Like and another thing is each song is so distinctive, yet there's a through line that goes through all of it.
Yeah,
that in itself again is a talent. It's not to say every band, every song sounds the same on every album. No.
Right.
I know they all sound different, but this different.
There's an overall theme and everything's
For
so
sure.
different.
It's not like you're hearing different
still.
albums necessarily.
Right,
but
yeah.
it definitely, like, you can't say you hear Granite and go like, oh yeah, it sounds like Spectre. Yeah.
Exactly.
No.
Right. Yeah.
But there are similarities. There are pieces there.
Yeah.
And I think that makes such a cool album. Excuse me. Again, re-listens. Because you just go, holy moly, man. Like, I was so immersed in one song, by the time the next one started, it took me a couple minutes to even register.
Yep. That's one thing I like, though, too, that the spaces between the songs are so minimal. It kind of just pushes you into the next one.
Because it really, this is just, again, we've said it, and just to reiterate, this is not a single track. It's just not.
No,
This is to be taken as an album. You need to hear it from start to finish. No, it's not a concept album necessarily, but it's just. I mean, but what I mean in the sense of a true, you know what I mean? Like, we're telling a story all with it.
Yeah,
it's just to say, like, look, man, I'm sorry. It's just you're doing yourself a disfavor to just put it on a mix and hope that Pierced Within comes on. You know what I mean? Like, nah, bro, you're missing. You're missing.
Yeah.
And it's just like I just so appreciate that, and an appreciation too of like what we've been talking about, like to share that with all of us.
Of course, yeah.
He could have easily
he could have kept it to himself or not have done it.
Absolutely, especially when you think about where it may have started to where it ended.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the exercising for him. Maybe he needs to release it. He needs to put it out there because, and I think he's proud of what he did too. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? It's just to say, like. One of the things that I think we always talk about when it comes to this type of music that we love the most is we feel a connection to these people through their art.
Yeah, yeah.
So when they are willing to share some of their darkest moments, like you feel honored. You feel like you got a secret key into a new realm that you didn't even know existed.
Right.
And I love that. And it makes this, in all music when it comes to this, doesn't have to be, underground black metal necessarily, but you know what I'm saying? It's just like a closer connection to the stuff you love is always a great thing.
It's just a more satisfying version of entertainment.
Absolutely, man. I mean, as we talked about in our last episode of Sinners, it's like, yeah, you can love Sinners on the surface and go entertaining, fun vampire movie, but you can also dig deeper and
other stuff.
Realize how much more it can mean to you and affect your life. Yeah. And, art in general, I want that to happen. I want the art in my life to affect me.
Yep.
And like I said, this is in that way. That's why it's in my top 5 all time is like, I've never been affected by an album in this way. I've been affected by many albums that have affected me in great ways, but never like this.
Never like this one.
And it's just every time I hear it, I'm just affected all over again. And it really is. I tried listening to it at work. I was able to do it, but it really was.
I had to push through.
I kind of did because it was like there are moments in which I don't know if I'm showing that outside, and. Not that people will be like, "Oh my God, call the cops." It's just to say, I don't know because I'm so immersed in it and I'm so deep in it. I don't, it feels. I guess what I'm saying is, it feels like a private album for me.
Hey, same, yeah.
I don't. It's not that it was just funny. Before we came over, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Kevin, and I told him what we were gonna do, and he was so excited, and he was like, "Man, I can remember there'd be times where it would be like a group of us. We'd get our favorite little drug, a little weed, little booze, whatever, and we'd drop the needle on that thing. We'd all sit around and just trip balls to this thing about how amazing it is." And I thought, I don't know if I could do that. I don't, I wouldn't be against it.
Sure.
I just go, I don't think I've ever listened to this album with anyone else.
Yeah, I can't.
It's so weirdly feels so personal.
Sure.
And yet that is really cool that this is one of those albums kind of like Asunder where if you know, and if you don't, well, I think you should do yourself a favor, because I think there's a lot to listen to in this. And whatever you think, maybe you're not a big Leviathan fan or a black metal fan, don't let that sway you.
Yeah,
give this a chance.
I think the black metal tag, not that it works against it, but it's not entirely true in this case. It
feels like you're shortchanging it a little bit.
A bit, yeah.
Like it's like you're not wrong, but you're also not giving it its full credit.
Right.
And, you're right. It might even shoo people off a little bit. Black metal's not really my thing. I think you're 3 songs into it, you'll realize like, well, if this is black metal, maybe I am into black metal.
Right.
And it's like, well,
it's a good way of finding out.
Yeah, absolutely. And again,
But also, like you said,
Please.
what a bar being set so high, right?
Yes.
Because if you go in expecting black metal, and it's this, you're going to want more stuff like this, of which there's very little.
Very little.
Very. So, good luck, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's a good problem to have in a way, like, because good. I guess I just get to return to Lurker of Chalice.
Right. Oh,
but
definitely.
There is a hunger. I do wish I could find something that also did this.
Right.
We're lucky with other bands, perhaps like a Neurosis or an Agalloch, where, we did get 3 or 4 other albums that did that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This one really makes you kind of, it's that, the meme where you're like, y'all got any more of these records? Like I could use another one here, But it just, again, I think it speaks to how singular and amazing it truly is.
Yeah.
And I obviously our friends, that's probably why they're friends, but I've never met anybody that I can honestly say has ever listened to it and doesn't like it. Maybe not everybody that I know regards it in the way we are, but like, I just really feel like it's people who a lot of people may put it off because they don't like Leviathan.
Yeah.
But, again, although I think you're shortchanging yourself on that too, especially like Silhouette of Splinters alone. Like, do yourself a favor, man.
It's a good album.
I mean, his last album too, Scar-Sighted. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, the addition of stuff that he put into that is just, But anyway, great artist. And this album, it's just perfect in every way. I think that's it too. Now that I think perfect in ways I didn't even know you could do on a record.
Yeah,
the
'cause-
surprising of I didn't even know I didn't know you could mix those things. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
You know, in my wildest imagination, I could have never put these two things together.
Also,
and he
I'm
makes it
willing to
seamless.
bet that some of your other favorite albums, as some of mine, they include albums from bands that are already established and have something previous that you can kind of be like, oh, okay, well, this album is better than that last one.
Sure.
You know, but you don't have a previous Lurker
No,
album.
no,
Or
no.
you don't have one since, right?
No,
Like, you
because I
have-
certainly didn't hear the demos before I heard the album. I heard the album. I didn't know of any existence
I
of
didn't-
any
yeah,
of that
either,
shit.
yeah.
You know, so yeah, my first exposure is the moment those drums start at the beginning,
Yep.
and you just go, "Whoa, where are we going?"
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
So, you said it's one of your top 5.
Easily.
10 out of 10.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if I can,
Same.
mine goes to 11. So
This one goes to 11.
this is the Spinal Tap album because it goes to 11. You know?
Yeah, no, same. Yeah,
I think it's perfect.
love this album.
I think it's perfect in every way. There's no flaw to it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't think there's anything more I could ask from it. It's given me so much. you
Even
know?
with what I said about the production,
Yeah.
I wouldn't change
No,
that. You know,
no.
I wouldn't give it more, better sound.
No.
no.
No,
Give
no,
it to me
no.
the way it is. I'll just put
Absolutely.
the volume up if I want more of anything. You know,
Whatever flaws there may be
Keep
adds
'em.
to it.
That's why it's this.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Like and obviously again because he's a singular person, it is this thing you go like, could this exist in a band? You know what I mean?
No.
Could a band do this? Would there be too many input?
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, I do wonder about that. You know what I mean? Is the only way an album like this is created because it's from one person with a singular vision?
I do think that.
I do.
You know, I think if there were bassists and guitarists and keyboardists, they all want to have their
absolutely.
their touch
Yeah,
on the
of
music.
course.
You know, so and fair enough.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
that's how a band works.
I'm in a band with other people.
There you go.
Right, but because this is just the one person,
Mm-hmm.
he gets to say what goes where.
Yeah.
What styles of music is going to be played, and what effect it's going to have.
Sure.
Right.
And
yeah.
and I will say, Nick and I quickly, because I kind of just want to brag, we both were lucky enough to meet Jeff Whitehead.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was a show. Nick and I kind of knew each other at that time. We weren't the best of friends as of yet.
We were new to each other.
Our relationship was just budding, as they say.
We were just giving each other flirty looks from across the hall.
Well, a little bits of pink hearts were coming from both of us, but not quite love affair as we know it.
We
today.
were liking each other's pictures, but
I gave him a thing that said like, yes or no. Check one box. But it was a show that we went to. Hell played that? Was that?
No.
No. Who was it?
it was 2 Arizona bands.
Yes. And I know
one of them was Funerary.
There it is. Funerary. And I cannot remember the
I
other one
forget
for
the
the
other
life
one.
of me.
Yeah, I forgot the
Either
other
way,
one. Yeah, but
the
Jeff
thing that was
Whitehead
neat
yeah.
was, for me anyway, because so Nick was working the door that night. But for me, what was interesting is on the flyer, Stevie Floyd was advertised to be there because she was going to bring her art,
Right.
which I was excited for.
Stevie Floyd of Dark Castle.
Thank you.
fame.
And Taurus.
And
She's
Taurus.
fucking amazing guitar player and equally amazing artist. Her artwork is fantastic. I would recommend anybody check it out. She was supposed to be there. I thought, oh, well, that's really cool. And the idea of the show was to put art and the music together. So when you walked in, there was artwork on the walls and everything else. I had gone with someone else. Nick was at the door. Hey, Nick, what's up? How you doing? And I walk in, and immediately sitting at the table with what would soon be a woman he would be in a relationship with. I think they've since broken up. They have a daughter together. Either way, he's sitting there with Stevie Floyd, and I'm going, wait a minute. That's fucking Jeff Whitehead.
Yep.
And I remember saying to the guy that I went with, I said, dude, that's fucking Jeff Whitehead. And he was like, who's that? And I'm like, of course you don't know who that is. And I was just like, dude, Leviathan, fucking Lurker of Chalice, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. And I mean, on the outside, I'm cool, I'm calm. And on the inside, I am like a girl who just saw her favorite K-pop band, okay? I am losing my goddamn mind. And I am like, believe me, in my head going like, oh, I gotta say something to him because this may never happen again.
Yep.
I am such a fan, and I just want to say something. And I got the balls, and I did it. And I walked over to him, and I just said, listen, I'm sure you hear this all the time, but I just want to say Lurker of Chalice is one of the most amazing records I've ever heard in my life. And it is so singular and so amazing, and I just want to thank you. And he said, I do not hear that a lot. And I said, well, then you fucking should. because it's amazing, dude. And I shook his hand. I said, thank you very much. And he happened to be selling some artwork there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I bought one. And I even got a little bolder, and I said, do you mind if I get a picture with you? And he said, no problem, man. And this is the part where I nearly ran myself into traffic because I held his artwork the wrong way. And he helped me flip it. And he's like, oh, no, it's this way, man. I was like, oh, yes, it is. Now, if you excuse me, I've got to find a sharp utensil to put in my throat. But we took the picture. I have the picture. My wife, because she's an amazing human being, I woke up the next morning. She had already framed it. And it sits up. It's in my house. When you walk in, you can see it. It's a print of his. And that was an amazing night. And I just couldn't believe that I got to meet him. Please tell yours, because I know yours.
Same night.
I love it. I love it.
Everyone's setting up, right? There were a variety of artists there, including Stevie Floyd, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And I was there because one of the other artists was in a relationship with the event promoter.
Right.
So when they all got there, I got there with them, and I helped them set up. And at one point, this gentleman in a kind of an oversized hoodie, if I can remember
His
correctly.
big leather jacket also.
Yeah, right? So, like, he sits at the very far end with Stevie, and they're both kind of talking. And as the show is going on, some people recognize him.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And at one point, Stevie came over and she's like, hey, where can I get extra waters? And, you know, there was a case of waters right where I was. And I'm like, you can grab a bunch from there.
Right on.
So they took some over. And there was a lull in the people coming in. So I decided to get up and look at the artwork. And, you know, I'm walking down Stevie's artwork. Like I said, she's a great artist.
Amazing.
And in fact, she had some prints of Yob covers
That's
that
right.
she had
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And I get to, you know, the last section, which is Jeff's section.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy's biting an art style that I know.
Wait till I tell Mr. Whitehead about
I'm like,
this.
man, I hope nobody comes in and is like, hey, that looks like Jeff Whitehead's artwork. And, you know, and then I'm like, I look at Stevie because I didn't recognize him.
Which, again, would not be insane to do because, remember, this guy doesn't do a whole lot of press.
Right,
It's
yeah.
not like he's on every fucking magazine.
He's
and
not
half
out
of his
there.
pictures, he's in corpse paint.
Right, exactly, right?
So,
So,
yeah.
I'm talking to Stevie, and I look at him, like, clearly, and I'm like, oh, shit. That's fucking Rest from
Right,
Leviathan.
right.
That's Lurker of Chalice.
Right.
You know, and I stopped shaking her hand, and I started shaking his hand. And, you know, I mean, maybe I made a fool of myself. In fact, I probably did. I guarantee it.
I know I did.
And I'm just like, huge fucking fan. I love everything you've done.
Hell yeah.
You know? And I actually pointed at I have a Leviathan moon on
Hell yeah.
top of my wrist. I pointed at it, and I see that's how big of a fan I am. And he took my wrist, like, studied the piece, and he was like, thanks so much, you know?
Right on.
So I was like, let me buy some of these prints.
Yeah.
To my surprise, they were like, no. You're working the door.
Oh,
After
wow.
the show, just come up and grab whatever you want.
Very cool.
You know, so when they were cleaning up, I got to take home maybe 4 or 5 Stevie prints.
Right on.
And maybe 4 or 5 Jeff prints
Very
as well.
cool.
And I'm like, dude, I have money. And he's like, no, man. He's like, you were working the door. He's like, you know, you were working the whole time. People were just coming up and saying hi and
Right
like
on.
enjoying the show. So yeah, it's cool. So I thought that was awesome of him.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
I just remember, too, Andrew later, a mutual friend of ours, Andrew, came up to me. He's like, you got bigger balls than me, dude. He scared the shit out of me. I did not want to go up to him. I said, look, I'm not saying I wasn't scared. I just realized I may never get this opportunity
Right.
again
Yeah.
to think, especially somebody who has made a record that has affected my life in this way.
Yep,
And
yep.
fuck it. I don't care if he slits my goddamn throat in the middle of it, as long as I can just say thank you, you know?
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
couldn't have been cooler. And again, he's
Super nice
a super
guy.
humble dude.
Super
you know,
nice guy.
I wish he understood what a superstar he really is in some people's lives, but I love that it's really just about the art for this man. It
Yeah,
truly
yeah.
is about making this music. He is clearly inspired artwork and so on and so forth. And I just continued success for him, and I hope we continue to get more. Even though we'll never get another Lurker, that's fine. Continue with Leviathan, because God knows the last stuff you've been putting out is just getting better and better and better. You know? But yeah.
So,
I just thought that was a neat little story. And I remember you telling me yours. I just, I wanted to brag. I got to meet the man.
No,
you know?
it's- hey, humble brag on both of our
Oh,
parts there.
absolutely.
But yeah, so folks,
that
check it out. Check out the album.
Please.
You can find it on Bandcamp.
Yes, you can. Which I would say to some degree is maybe the definitive version of it, as it is put out by Jeff himself, saying that with that extra track, essentially, I would say that may be Southern Lord has not reissued it. Finding the reissue is a little expensive. Yeah. I think there are still copies. I think they did a third reissue, Nuclear War.
Okay.
The CD is obviously fairly cheap. You can find that anywhere. But yeah, not hard to find. But the download, I think, is $10, and you get that album as I think he wants it to be released as. So I would definitely recommend that.
Get the download. Support Jeff. I think some of that money might go for his daughter as well. So
I'm sure.
Hopefully, but yeah, check it out. Let us know what you think. And all that being said, what have you been watching?
So it's been a while since we've talked about our watching. One of the ones that, I was so excited to see it. I shouldn't have built it up as much. It wasn't bad. It wasn't at all. The movie I'm speaking of is The Brutalist.
The Brutalist. Okay.
This is the one that, what's his name, won the Academy Award, Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody, yeah.
Visually stunning in every sense of the word. It really, the director's ability or cinematographer, whoever does it, I don't know how we share this. I'm not that Mr. Hollywood. So, his ability to make these gigantic shots, but feel like you're taking it all in, but also do stuff that's very intimate at the same time. There's this amazing shot. So, for those who may not know, the gist of the story is it's an immigrant story. This is a man who has survived. He's a Hungarian Jew. He has survived the Holocaust. He is now coming to America to join a cousin that already lives here. He has been separated from his wife, who cannot leave, I want to say Hungary yet, because she is with her sister's kid, and they can't get the kid to come over. So he comes over first. There's this amazing shot where he is woken up in what seems like complete darkness, but you can just make out his face. And he's like, hey, gotta get up. Come on, man, come on. And he's slowly emerging, and you're realizing he's at the bottom of a boat, like a ship. And he's slowly emerging up these stairs, and so there's more light. And then he comes up to the top, and it is bright as day. He's even kind of, doing the squinty thing. And then the camera moves around, and what you have is a shot of the Statue of Liberty, but it's upside down.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's this really amazing shot, and you're just like, So The Brutalist, the name comes from, that's the type of art he learned while he was in Hungary, called Brutalism. Yep. He is an architect. While in Hungary, before World War II, he was it was known. His architecture in that country was revered. People really liked it. He comes to this country, obviously he has nothing, and he has to start all over again. He starts with a cousin, works in a furniture store. All this is to say, eventually he teams up with a guy who's very rich and wants to fund whatever the fuck he wants to do. But it's also exploiting him, ultimately. Now, he's not very good to himself either, through drugs and stupid decisions and just kind of being an artist that must, I must have that block. And it's like, dude, that will take us 80 days to get it here. Well, why can't you just do this one that sits here? You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. I don't know that the movie needed to be 3 hours. It felt a little in some moments. Again, there are shots that are just unbelievable. The acting is fantastic. Everybody's at Guy Pearce is in it. The girl from Rogue One. Great actors. All of them are at the top of their game.
Yeah.
It just felt a little long in some places. I'm not a prude, and don't get me wrong, movies can do whatever they want. There is a scene, again, spoiler alert, this movie's been out for a while, so whatever. You get the idea that Guy Pearce's character is exploiting him or taking advantage of him in some ways. Well, then there's literally a scene in which he physically takes advantage of him while he's drunk, and you just feel like, okay, did I need? Was this like, we got the metaphor? Do we actually need to watch him thrust into? You know what I mean? Like,
is this movie? This is based on a real person.
Technically, yes. As I understand it, it's actually based on two people.
Okay.
So there are two people that there's one that was more eccentric. There's another one that was a little more of art. They were survivors, I believe, but their artwork was known. They weren't as exploited when they're showing the immigrant. Listen, the immigrant story of it all, the idea of having to start all over again because of something that happened in your home country you had no control over, coming to this country in which you have to start all over, but you feel like, but I'm established. I have this thing that I do. And when it is recognized, first you feel like, oh, I've been recognized, and now you're going to give me this kind of blank check to do what I want. But then you realize, well, I also want to show you off to my friends, and I want to say that, and I get all of that. And that is shown throughout. And again, it wasn't a horrible movie at all. I don't feel like I wasted my time. There's just some stuff where I'm kind of like, I don't know. It didn't need to be 3 hours, and I don't know. We get what you're trying to say. Why did you? Like I said, I'm not prude. I'm just saying it's like,
Maybe that happened to one of the.
As far as I read, no. In fact, one of the artists, interestingly enough, I guess he kind of had a way about him. His last name was Goldfinger. And, well, he lived next door at one time.
To a Bond?
No. To the James Bond guy.
Oh.
Who wrote the James Bond movies. It pissed him off. He pissed him off so much. That's why he named the bad guy Goldfinger.
No shit.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
That is cool.
The other interesting thing about this movie, of course, as you know, one of our episodes about AI. We talked about it on there.
Yeah.
So I read some more about this. If I am understanding this correctly, apparently in some ways I'm in awe of the technology, but also like it still seems, what did we need this for?
Yeah.
The editor of this film apparently spoke Hungarian. As editing the film, he felt that not just Adrian Brody, but apparently even I wish I could remember her name, the one from Rogue One. I know she's been in probably 1,000 other things, but you're talking to a Star Wars nerd here, so all I know.
This is also how we get to the answer.
Yeah,
the one from this, the one from that.
So anyway, the girl from Rogue One, who's really great in it, apparently he felt like there were certain sections in which the way they were speaking Hungarian was not correct. So he was able to go in, dub his voice over it, then use AI to make it sound like their voice. Which like I said, for a moment, I definitely go like, holy shit, the technology. But I'm also like, holy shit, the technology, great. We're all going to be dead here in about 5 years. But also just like, to our original point when we talked about this would have taken away from what?
Yeah.
The Hungarian Council of Accents would have come and protested your movie? like I didn't see, at no time, by the way, I'm pretty sure Adrian Brody's not Hungarian, and I'm absolutely positive the girl from Rogue One is not Hungarian.
The aforementioned girl from Rogue One.
Right. So, Guy Pearce also isn't an American.
Right.
But he is in this movie. I don't know why that was necessary. And you know what I mean? It just feels, I don't know. All that is to say, fairly good movie. Adrian Brody's good in it. What gets an Academy Award anymore? I couldn't tell you.
I got to be honest. When I saw all the hubbub about this movie, I was like, all right, but is it a good movie or not?
I mean, ultimately, I think it is a good movie. I think it's an interesting way to tell this tale. I think, sorry, but true. Visually, it's probably.
Oh no!
I think you would get more out of it visually than you would be.
Didn't it win like a visual something award?
You might be right. I don't know, but if it did, I would totally understand why.
Yeah.
I think visually, it's kind of reminds me of what's the one? Here we go again. Okay, we're gonna lead. I'm gonna drop breadcrumbs, and you're gonna be able to get these. I know you are. Who's the pretty blonde boy that Barbie and all that everybody is amazing actor and. You know what I'm talking? Barbie and the stuntman can sing, can act, can dance.
Ryan
Gosling. Yeah. He's in that movie, Only God Can Judge.
Yes.
That was done by the same guy who did Driver.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. When I watched
Drive.
Thank you. When I watched that Only God Could Judge, all I could think the whole time was, I don't know who this cinematographer is, but he should win every fucking award. I don't know who wrote this because this person's fucking stupid because I don't know what the hell's going on in this fucking movie. But visually, it was like watching paintings come to life, the way they use the lighting and everything else. That's what I took the most away from The Brutalist, was like, there are moments and scenes where I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, what a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's... reminds me of another director named Tarsum.
Okay.
Tarsum Singh.
Okay.
He made a movie called The Fall.
Okay.
Fucking gorgeous movie.
Okay.
Just visually, it's stunning. The colors used, everything. Yeah. The story is also good, luckily, right?
That helps.
Yeah, a lot, actually, yeah.
Hey, here's a clue, guys. These are talkies.
Yeah, but visually it's amazing. He
Right on.
also did another movie called The Cell with
Jennifer Lopez
and Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah. I've never
That's
seen that.
Visually
Yeah,
stunning.
oh.
And also a great story.
Okay.
But yeah, so I like it when directors or cinematographers
Sure.
or whomever
Yes.
takes
Credit
the
where
time.
credit is due.
Yeah, of course. But like the accents, like,
Yeah.
come on, man.
Yeah, no,
that might be a little overkill.
I think it's overhyped to a degree. I think
Yeah.
it is a good movie. If it's on and you want to check it out, I would definitely recommend it. But don't get yourself out of your way. To
Yeah,
do so.
that's what I
wouldn't.
was saying.
Yeah. Now on the funner side of movies, I also watched. I had not seen it in a long time. Half Baked. Fucking love
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
great
just,
movie.
Quoting that shit all fucking day.
Yep.
Abba Zaba, you my only friend.
my only
I mean,
friend.
to this day, I still die when he's just like, I come from the beach. Boy! I mean, god damn, I just die every single time. Great to see again. And just fun to go back and go like, wow, look how young they all look. And like, it's just... Also, that kind of thing where it's like, it's an hour and a half. It doesn't have to make sense. You're just
Yeah.
going to laugh your balls off.
Yep.
Just go with it. Who cares, you know?
That's one that Amy and I all the time. Samson.
That's it. Oh, bitch, you know what I want. Yes. Oh, I mean, first time I ever saw that, I was still in the military, and I remember a friend of mine getting in trouble while we were standing. He got in a lot of trouble. We were standing in line for food. And he did that. And he goes, he had sex with my mama as loud as he could. And I just remember like, oh my God, we are going to get so much fucking. I mean, there were people looking at us like, we got up to the front there where you had to give your last four so they could log you in. And the sergeant was just standing there waiting for him. And it was just like, I did everything I could to be like, I've never seen this motherfucker in my life. I do not know what he's doing. But yeah, I fucking love that movie. I could watch it a million times. Another one of my absolute favorites, Edge of Tomorrow. Dude, Groundhog's Day meets a war movie. I'm in. I never get tired of watching that movie. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
The way they do it, where the less and less time you have because you already know enough that you can just catch up. But I love the repeat. It's at the beginning where you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Why is this? And he can. Okay, he's doing this. He does that. I love it.
In fact, that is part of the alternate title, Live, Die, Repeat.
That's right. I couldn't remember. Yeah. It's kind of a weird title, but nonetheless, Edge of Tomorrow is. The problem is Live, Die, Repeat's cool, but the Edge of Tomorrow also goes, I don't know what this movie's about. Where Live, Die, Repeat kind of tells you what this movie's exactly about.
Yep.
But love that movie. Big Tom Cruise guy in general. Any movies, and
That's a fun one
I'm pretty much
with
in.
the mech suits that they wear.
Dude, it's fucking. I mean, just the look of it, dropping from those planes,
Yeah.
the whole idea of it, just so neat. And the idea that they're mimics that can, they change time, they realize what they're gonna do, and I never tire watching that.
Yeah, it's a fun
and then a fairly new one, for me anyway. A guy recommended it at work. Pretty good. Called Peninsula, brought to you by the same people that did Train to Busan. So I would say it's kind of a mix of Train to Busan and Mad Max. The idea is this is kind of the aftermath of Busan, the whole zombie infection and everything else. Ex-military guy who lost his wife and kids now lives, I believe, now they all live in, I may have missed this one, China or something like that. So Korea's off limits, essentially.
Okay.
You can't go there anymore. He's kind of a mercenary, essentially. Guy hires him and says, look, there's a truck over there, got a shit ton of money on it, y'all, and we're going to drop you off. You go get the truck, you bring it back. And you got to do this with all these kind of, creatures, all these zombies over there.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out other people live there too. They're surviving in this wasteland, and they too have guns, and they too like to kill people. So, a fun movie all the way on. Not as good as Train to Busan. I thought that one was much better. Kind of a continuation of it, but still fun. If you like zombie movies, good action. The part where you're kind of like, it's not the entire time, but you're kind of doing the road warrior thing. They're in cars, they're driving through, trying to avoid, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. Totally recommend it. Last three things that we've been doing, television shows. Wife and I are very late to it, but I've been wanting to see it. Peaky Blinders. There's some great people in it. It's fantastic. It feels just too much of this. Well, we solved that problem next season, and you hear the voiceover from Morgan Freeman. And then a new problem showed up, and it's just like, yeah, well, that's what's, we got it, Oh, just when you think they're down, aha, they're back up.
Yeah.
But also cool, a lot of great people. Cillian Murphy's in it. I mean, people that you.
Isn't Tom Hardy in it?
He's in one season, yes. He comes in. Every season seems to drop. I think Adrian Brody's going to be in one season. The biggest one that was a surprise to me, I had no idea he was in it, and it was just fun to see him. Sam Neill.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
Jurassic Park,
Mr.
Dead
Australia.
Calm. Yeah, very cool to see him in it. He plays without spoilers at this point. We're 8 years behind on Peaky Blinders, I mentioned.
Yeah.
But he plays an Irish guy, so he puts on an Irish accent, and he's a cop, and he's great in it. Plays essentially he's a bad guy. He's not a good dude at all. It was just neat to see him in that. You know what I mean? But it's entertaining. We're enjoying it. You know what I mean? But it's not. I wouldn't put it in the pantheons of the Breaking Bads, the Sopranos, stuff like that for me so far. Maybe I'll be wowed. We're only in the middle of season 3. I'm enjoying it. It's super entertaining. But for all that I heard of it, it feels a little bit like, and I did enjoy it, but like Sons of Anarchy, where it's like, I think a lot of people like it because it's a bunch of tough guys doing tough guy shit.
Yep.
So like, oh yeah, I love watching these tough guys doing tough guy shit. And it's like, yeah, but is it a good story? You know what I mean? Like, But it's also cool because you go, it's back in.
It's popcorn fodder.
Absolutely, it's fun. Right. And again, you're back in, right after essentially, they're all World War I veterans. It's post World War I England and what they're going through and so on and so forth. The other one, which I knew going into it, so I'm not mad. It's not heavy at all, and it's really fun. It's on HBO called Duster. I don't know if you've seen the advertisements for this. Fun movie, a fun show. We talked about him in another episode of ours because he's an amazing actor. Mr. Keith David is in it.
Yeah, oh, hell yeah.
He plays essentially like a mob boss in Arizona. The driver drives, and he is. I've seen him in stuff. I think he was in Lost and stuff like that. I looked at his IMDb. He's a good-looking dude who can throw a punch. So they put him in a lot of movies.
Oh, I know which one this is.
He looks Scandinavian, but I think he's
Sawyer.
I think okay.
Sawyer
I
from
don't
Lost.
know. Okay, I'll go with that. Again, the good-looking dude,
blonde guy, longish hair.
Yes, especially in this because this takes place. It's like mid-70s ish kind of thing, which is kind of cool. So you lose cell phones, you lose it. The clothing is very different. You know what I mean? The whole idea is he's the driver for this mob guy who never is on the inside. All I do is drive, and a new black female is in the Arizona FBI. Well, you find out she's got history with Keith David. Keith David killed her father. The only reason she's joined the FBI is she's been trying to get after this guy forever. She ends up seeing a crime that the main character did and trying to flip him and say, now you're going to be an informant for me. And you go through these. It's just fun. There's no, Sopranos is deep. There's metaphor. There's all these things. No. J.J. Abrams is just like, we're going to have cool cars, kick-ass music, good action, gunfights, just fun.
I didn't know it was J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, he produced it.
Right.
And also has, last episode had, they went to Vegas and you find out they're visiting with, who's the crazy rich dude that, remember he couldn't touch him and he used to make Howard Hughes.
Oh,
yeah. They meet with Howard Hughes.
Oh, that's cool.
Nixon has made an appearance
Nice.
because of whatever they're doing is somehow tied to Nixon. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's all over the place. I mean, it's small town shit, but they don't realize they're dealing with much bigger shit and the FBI and so on and so forth. So it's just a fun watch.
All right.
And then
That's
the biggest,
one
I would. They're probably each episode 45 minutes, if that. So real fun.
That's one Amy and I am gonna watch.
Okay, good. Let me know what you think because I'm interested. Like I said. It's not deep. You can have it on in the background, still fully fucking entertained by this whole thing. It's lots of fun. The last one we have not finished yet. We're taking our time. Is The Bear. The Bear last season just came out. Very excited for that. It is my wife and I one of our absolute favorite shows. Thanks to your wife for recommending it.
Yep.
Though she did recommend it for a very long time, and my dumb ass did not listen. But I finally did, and thank you for that because. Fantastic show.
Yeah.
So far, so good. I'm very interested to see how we end this because I believe this is the end, right?
I don't know. I thought there was going to be one more season.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, because it felt like last year we ended on a cliffhanger, purposely so, and I thought this was going to be the end. So I'm very interested to see where we go with this. Again, amazing show. I can't say enough good things about it. And again, thank you to your wife for beating me over the head enough with it, so I finally did it because the wife and I very much enjoy it. But that's the one we're most excited about that we're going to be probably finishing tonight. I'm hoping.
Nice. All right.
How about yourself?
Well, since you mentioned The Bear,
Please.
we are watching The Bear.
Right on.
I don't know, maybe 3 episodes in.
That's
so
where
far.
we're about 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah. Starting off good.
Yeah.
I like hearing the accents and Richie and all that. I like Richie as a character, so like.
Very cool. One that started, I fucking hated, and now I'm
Yeah.
really coming around on that guy.
Also, apparently, I don't know the actor's name, but the guy that plays Richie.
It's a very interesting name, by the way. There's a lot of consonants.
Yeah, so he's also playing Benjamin Grimm, aka the Thing,
That's
in the
right.
new Fantastic
That's
Four
right.
movie.
Yes, yes.
So-
And was in Punisher.
Yeah,
The TV series.
Yes,
The
yeah.
computer guy that helps
Yeah,
Punisher.
Micro.
Yeah. That's the first time I ever really noticed him. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so now it's coming along great. If you're aware of The Bear, it's a great show.
Yeah.
If you're not, check it out, or you'll hear about it from us. We also watched. So these next 2, we watched, but I think we were pretty upset about.
Oh.
Not upset because the content.
Okay.
They were just not
Kind of let down by it?
good.
Okay. I got
One of them was a show called Sirens.
Is this on HBO?
I think it is.
Okay. Okay.
It was kind of hailed as an alternative to White Lotus.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
It stars Julianne Moore as
She's great. I like Julianne Moore. Okay, go ahead.
That's
Please.
exactly what Amy said.
I'm
We
big
love
fan.
everybody loves Julianne Moore,
Yeah.
right? Everybody loves Julianne Moore. Nothing against her, but then
I
you
found her
watch.
very attractive also.
Well, I mean,
But anyway,
back
sorry.
when I had eyes. But yeah, so show starts off, and again, spoilers abound. Blah blah blah. But it's nothing but fucking rich people, and there are some real conversations about like one of the characters. There's 2 sisters basically. One works for Julianne Moore.
Okay.
And they're incredibly rich. And Kevin Bacon's in it.
Yes.
And they live on like a island that's a
yes.
sanctuary.
Yes.
Every fucking thing you can think of is taken care of for you. Right? There's just disgustingly rich. Which I think is why the White Lotus comparison came into play.
I got you.
And then the sister of the girl that works for Julianne Moore, she, kind of rough around the edges, takes care of her dad who's experiencing dementia, right? So she brings along one of her coworkers that she also happens to be sleeping with. But she's like, I don't want to say like punk, because maybe alternative looking.
Okay.
And then when she ends up at the sanctuary with the sister, they get into it. The boss of the one sister doesn't like the rowdy sister.
Okay.
And then so that gets into it. Then Kevin Bacon comes down from his tower, because he's somewhat separated from Julianne Moore.
Well, the price of bacon has gone up, so he has
Well,
the
of course,
money.
but yeah, it's just such a fucking dumb.
Interesting. Okay.
I did not like it. I don't think Amy liked it either. We kind of just
It's just a
finished
shame because
watching it.
you're saying Kevin Bacon, Julianne Moore. I mean, those would have hooked me absolutely.
I
would've-
think even like the other actors in there are good.
Okay.
But it's just like so many choices that did not have to be made.
Okay.
Like we could have ended this on a 2-episode,
I got you.
run. But Sirens and
Did you guys feel the need though to finish it because you started
Well,
it?
we were already like 3 episodes in.
I gotcha.
And then there was the one missing detail about the story where we're like, should we? Like, we already don't like
I hear you.
anybody.
I hear you.
Like, nobody's likable in this.
I
thing,
gotcha.
Nobody is likable.
I got you.
But yeah, so we did that one. We watched another one called Mountain Head, which I think maybe you had mentioned.
Oh, is this the one Steve Carell and
Steve
all?
Carell,
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if you ended up watching it.
I did. No, I liked it. I thought it was good.
I did not.
I mean, I wasn't happy about necessarily. I mean, it felt a little too real.
Yeah, so that situation,
in that
the whole
way,
AI situation,
But I thought it was like
all too real.
I thought it was very fucking
I
spot
thought-
on in a lot of ways.
Yeah, of course, right? So if you're not aware, Mountain Head is kind of for tech associated people who design software. One of them owns a social media network.
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter. Yeah, right. And then one person creates AI.
Right.
One person has a filter to filter out the AI
Right.
from the real stuff. And I forget what Steve Carell does. I think he
Well,
works with.
he was a like a hedge fund guy.
That's right,
He's
yeah.
kind of the senior
He's
of
the-
all
the
of them.
money.
He's the advisor, and he's
Yeah.
got more money than any of them until the it's not Twitter, but it is Twitter. The Twitter guy finds out now actually make more money than you.
Him,
I'm worth
yeah.
more than you are, and it's a kind of levels of richness in all of them. Talia Shire's son.
Jason Schwartzman.
He is hosting it at his mountaintop house that is like beyond like a house. Like this thing,
Which
is
they
like,
even like kind of heavy-handedly say, "Oh, Mountainhead." You
Yeah.
mean like Fountainhead, Ayn Rand's Fountainhead.
I mean, and for in case you didn't, this is written by the same guy that did the the show about the rich family that owns essentially it's the Fox News family and that
Oh, right. Yeah,
Succession.
Yeah,
It's written by the same guy. This is another one of his in his mind. For an Englishman, a brutal takedown of rich assholes who think they can control the world, and quite frankly, to some degree, kind of are.
They
and
are,
more
yeah.
importantly, ruining the world for their own amusement,
Sure.
but also feeling. I mean, there's sections of it where he's like, "So I'll just own Costa Rica? Okay, let me call him up and I'll have a press. He's literally having like a video chat with Costa Rica to talk about how he's going to save them with his money, and they're talking about it so flippantly.
That's
as
the thing
though-
too. It's like so hyperbolic. You
Yeah,
know?
and-
And I was like, it was hard for me to latch onto. I wanted more of the severity of the background happenings,
I hear
which is
you.
everything happening with the AI stuff and the social
Sure,
media
sure,
stuff.
yeah.
And not so much that I wanted something to happen to them.
No.
But when you think something is going to
Yeah.
because of themselves.
I hear you.
And like if
Well, I
if,
mean, there's also one. I mean, there's a section where they do plot to kill that one
Well,
guy.
yeah, but even with that, like
Yeah.
Steve Carell is apparently
Yeah.
like the smartest guy.
Right.
But when he says the shocking thing, like, I want to kill you and do
Right,
this, it's
right.
like, all right, buddy, like, this is, I don't believe you.
Well,
you know?
and
Like,
maybe that's some of it too. Is so like these men think they're so powerful, but when it really comes down to it, none of them are. They're and many of them have just essentially
course,
fallen
yeah,
ass
yeah.
backwards into money,
Yeah, yeah,
and so again, I hear you. I wasn't the favorite thing. I just enjoyed the people in it. That one kid that plays the Twitter guy, he's the one who played Chevy Chase in this SNL movie. I think he's really, really good, very charismatic, and I thought he was good. I always like seeing Jason Schwartzman. Remy, I think, is the other guy. I can't remember what not Remy Malik, but it's something. He had a TV show on like Hulu or FX or something like that that was fairly popular. And then Carell, I'm always in on Carell.
I mean, I like Carell, but this was not a good vehicle for him, I think. For just my opinion
I got you,
alone.
yeah.
It was honestly a waste of a good storyline. I think there could have been a lot of things that they could have explored, especially if they didn't make Steve Carell try to convince us that he was that intelligent and then sound foolish so many times. Because they do go out of their way. Like sometimes when they're explaining the goings on of the business,
sure.
I'm like, okay, I get this. Like, well, I don't get it, but like I get what they're trying to set up.
Yeah.
But then they're sitting together and they blurt out these random lines. I'm like, well, you just fucking took me out. You just took me out of the storyline.
gotcha.
So Mountainhead, I would say watch at your own risk.
Yeah, I don't much like the show that he did. I don't know if it's for everyone. You know what I mean? I think it's very dark in its humor.
Yeah.
Very British in some ways.
Like Succession, I didn't watch it,
Right.
but I understand why it's a good show because the parts that I watched,
I
was
hear
like,
you.
okay, I
Yeah,
can see why folks are into it.
Absolutely. No,
but-
I personally, I was a huge Succession. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was such a great takedown of these people and just showing how pathetically flawed they all are, and that their whole existence is money, and they'll do whatever they can for it. Sadly, sacrificing everything and everyone they love. You know what I mean? And it was like watching something Shakespearean as they all kind of kill each other in a way.
Yeah.
And this just felt like, oh, okay, I like that, so I'll check out what he did. Again, I don't think it's something I'm gonna a repeat viewing, but it was just once again just showing like the audacity of these idiots, but also there are many times where you're going like, this is a little too close to what's.
That's the part that I
know.
wish they had kept with.
Yeah,
you know,
and I just wonder how much can you predict this for, yeah, but I'm with you. And then also considering some of these guys and the money they have, how slanderous can you get before somebody gives you a cease and desist or,
Of course,
you know,
yeah.
but yeah, no, I hear you. I don't think it's for everybody, but I personally was entertained, but like I said, I don't see myself going back to it very often or if ever. Really.
Last one I watched was the new Captain America movie.
Oh, okay.
I have thoughts.
Please go ahead. No, I mean, what's the spoil really at this point? But go ahead.
It's entertaining if
Okay.
if you disregard the loose ends.
Okay.
And by loose ends, I'm just saying the way they wrapped them up
Okay.
is a little too quickly, a little too polished.
Okay.
You know, some like halfway into the movie, some characters just disappear. Like, like hey, what happened to her? You know.
Well, that is his superpower. So.
I kind of wish it were, I kind of wish I disappeared halfway into the movie. But like they use Sam Wilson, who is the new Captain America, who is also the black Captain America.
Right.
But if you had watched the show, we are also made aware that he was not the first black Captain America.
Right.
Because Isaiah Bradley also stars in this movie.
Yeah.
They use him as kind of the motive to create the tension or more tension with the president.
Right.
Who in this one is played by Harrison Ford.
Yeah, that was
Thaddeus
pretty-
Ross, who
Yeah.
he replaces. Jeez, I can't remember his name now.
Oh, is he the guy who's
He passed away.
Oh, yeah. William Hurt.
William Hurt. There you go.
Oh,
Yes.
so it's I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
he's the one
Harrison
who's going
Ford-
after Black. What's her name? And
Black Widow,
Black
yeah.
Widow.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the whole. Oh shit! I
Yeah,
had
so
no idea.
Thaddeus Ross famously goes after the Hulk in the comics also.
Okay.
Right, so what they do is they actually get the actor from the old Hulk movie to play the leader, who he played in the old movie as well.
Oh, cool.
And they bring back Liv Tyler to play Thaddeus Ross's daughter, Betty Ross.
Oh shit, Betty. Well,
Yeah.
that's a little on the nose.
Well,
If she's sewing a flag, I'm gonna be very upset. But
yeah,
go ahead.
right. But some cool stuff. They set up the new Falcon, which is going to be played by his partner Joaquin Torres.
Okay,
In
cool.
the movie, that's
Cool.
not the actor's name. That's the character's name.
Okay.
They also kind of like
He was also on the show, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
he's fucking great.
Yeah.
It's a great pairing.
Right on.
The action stuff is great.
Okay.
But Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross, Thunderbolt Ross, as it's called, he does have a condition that is kind of set up along the way, kind of sloppily
Okay.
by the leader, who's the same villain from the old Hulk movie. And when it plays out, that's kind of like the loose ends that are like, oh,
Okay.
you're sweeping this up a little too quickly for my liking. And
Okay.
it's kind of a long movie, a couple hours,
Okay.
They could have wrapped it up nicer, I think.
Okay.
All this also seemed like a big commercial to introduce the next slew of movies.
Okay. It was more of a
Which-
transition movie.
Yeah, because the topics that they deal with,
Right.
fucking great.
Okay.
They introduced adamantium.
Okay.
For some reason, it's the U.S. versus Japan, having a
Okay.
dogfight. Which cool. Like we were already here once.
Right.
So I think what Marvel does is it starts introducing some really great storylines, but then maybe gets scared of them and
Okay.
does the whole let's wrap it up, folks. It clocks the ticking. We're gonna hit the 2-hour mark. And
Right.
yeah, but all this is also to say,
Please.
Sam Wilson. When I first knew of Sam Wilson as a character,
Mm-hmm.
the Falcon, he was such a minimal character in the comic book, especially like because I'm aware of like the '70s version of Sam Wilson.
Okay.
When he had a fro and it's cut out on top so that you can see the fro.
Okay.
Right, and it's a big old black dude, but the costume isn't anywhere obviously where it is now. One of the other side characters says a really good line that like he feels like he can't disappoint the other people who have fought so hard to get a place at the table. Which I felt was like, oh, that's kind of what the Falcon character is also.
Sure.
Because he went up. He was not Steve Rogers when he became Captain America. Obviously,
right.
you know, everyone's used to the blonde, blue-eyed Captain America.
Understandably so. Easy to sell.
And you know, the show actually, Captain America and the Winter Soldier takes on I'm sorry, Falcon and the Winter Soldier takes on a lot of these topics.
Yeah.
Right, and I thought they did a great job.
Fantastic. It was really an interesting twist that I did not see coming.
Yeah. So like when they kind of also reintroduce some of these topics in the movie,
I gotcha.
but they don't explore them because there is a conclusion to all this.
Sure.
And I feel like they could have done it within a 2-hour context.
Sure.
When they did it, I was like, all right, well, hopefully you get it right in the next one, you know,
Yeah.
because I'm a sucker for fucking comic book movies.
Oh, sure.
You know, I'm going to keep watching. But it was cool. It was cool seeing him as Captain America and getting some of the props, seeing the new Falcon, and Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross turns into the Red Hulk, which is not a secret. That's in the trailers, right?
Yeah, that's in the trailer.
So that's actually cool to see because Red Hulk in the comics is fucking destructive as hell.
Right on.
Like he touches shit and it just burns. So like when this dude, you know,
Very cool.
causes damage, it's
Though it was weird to hear him say, "Get off my plane." I was like, I don't think you're in
well,
line
you
with
know
me.
what? I will because you're now the Red Hulk.
Anything you say, sir.
So that's pretty much all the watching for this
on,
week.
right on.
Folks, if you've got any recommendations, let us know.
Absolutely.
We're always open for them. Thanks so much for checking us out. We'll catch you next time.
Right on.
Hey, folks, thank you so much for checking out the rehearsal room. We super appreciate you spending time with us. If you have any questions, comments, or want to yell at us for any of the takes we've expressed in any of these episodes, you can contact us by emailing us at therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. All one word, therehearsalroompod@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and now on Blue Sky. Also, if you have any recommendations for any movies or any bands you might want us to check out and give a listen to, feel free to send those in. We always accept submissions. Or if you have any shows coming up that you feel we might be interested in checking out, let us know and we'll give you guys a shout out. But thank you for checking us out and we'll catch you next time.